What if everything you've gone through, every heartbreak, every closed door, every season of silence, wasn't a delay, but a divine design? What if the pain wasn't punishment, but preparation? Chosen one, listen closely. You are standing at the edge of a supernatural threshold, and once you cross this final line, your life will never look the same again. This isn't just another breakthrough. This is the moment everything shifts. This is the moment you enter the million realm, where the blessings you've only seen in dreams begin to flood your reality. You've always felt it, haven't you? That quiet knowing deep inside, the sense that you were set apart. While others moved through life unaware, you've carried a weight, a calling, a whisper from heaven that said, "You were made for more. You were never ordinary." And now that sacred truth is about to be revealed to the world. Comment 777. Right now, if your spirit is stirring, if something inside you knows this word is for you. And to all of you who've shown love through Super Thanks, your support doesn't just bless this message, it breathes life into a global movement. I see you. I thank you, and I pray 100-fold return over everything you've sown. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Being chosen comes with a cost, but it also comes with an inheritance, one that's not just spiritual, but tangible. Yes, the millions. Yes, the favor. Yes, the divine abundance that has been quietly accumulating on your behalf, just waiting for your obedience to unlock it. So let me ask you this. What if this is the moment all of heaven has been waiting for you to step into? What if this final step is the one that separates the ones who talk about destiny from the ones who live it? Get ready, because what you're about to hear could be the key that opens the door to everything. Let's step into it. Together, God's chosen ones, cross this last line. Your life enters the million realm. Many of you, God's chosen ones, have walked through life not fully grasping the weight of who you truly are. You've carried a quiet power, but for too long, you've underestimated your worth. Have you ever found yourself downplaying your dreams, convinced that prosperity, influence, or financial breakthrough was meant for someone else? Maybe the world convinced you that desiring more made you selfish, but here's a truth the enemy never wanted you to uncover. You were always meant to live in overflow. You're not just here to endure and survive spiritually. You are here to thrive in the physical realm as well. The divine does not separate your purpose from your provision. Just as Joseph was elevated to a position of wealth and power in Egypt after years of betrayal and prison, you too are being positioned to rule, not just pray. And Joseph didn't hoard his abundance. He used it to preserve a nation, to serve others when famine came. In the same way, the blessings that are approaching your life are not merely a reward for your faithfulness. They are divine instruments meant to expand the impact of your calling. You've poured out energy in secret places, haven't you? Developing yourself in silence, obeying when no one clapped, serving even when it hurt. And now all that energy is coming back to you, amplified, pressed down, shaken together and running over, just as Jesus promised in the Gospel of Luke. This isn't a coincidence. You're standing on the edge of something monumental. The final threshold before your life takes a radical turn into the million realm, not just financially, but in impact, opportunity, and divine authority. Have you noticed how things have started to feel different lately? A sense that what once resisted you is now shifting in your favor. That's not your imagination. That's alignment. What's ahead of you is infinitely more significant than what you left behind. God is preparing a table for you, not just in the presence of your enemies, but in the sight of those who once doubted your calling. And as David wrote in Psalm 23, your cup is about to overflow. But be warned, abundance is not just a prize, it's a responsibility. The weight of glory brings with it a new level of stewardship. Moses didn't just lead the Israelites out of Egypt. He had to carry the burden of their growth, their doubt, and their future. You too are stepping into a season where what you receive will demand wisdom. The resources coming your way, be it influence, wealth, or platforms, are not just for comfort. They are for kingdom work. They are tools to heal, to build, to liberate others still trapped in the wilderness you've already escaped. And maybe you've asked yourself at some point, why me? Why this journey? Why these tests? You weren't chosen because you were the most gifted or the loudest in the room. Look at Esther, an orphan girl turned queen, who saved her people not by force, but by faith and courage. You were chosen because, like her, you carried hidden strength, quiet bravery, and obedience in the unseen places. Do you remember the nights you almost gave up, when no one saw your tears, yet you kept praying, kept trusting, kept standing? That's what made you chosen. It wasn't the absence of trials, it was your tenacity in the fire. Like Daniel in the lion's den, you stayed loyal even when surrounded by threats. Like Ruth, you chose loyalty over comfort, walking into the unknown with nothing but hope. It was your willingness to keep walking through pain, confusion, and loneliness that marked you for elevation. I've seen this pattern in my own life too. The moments I wanted to stop, to shrink, to disappear, those were often the very moments right before everything began to shift. The delay wasn't a denial, it was divine preparation. You are not on this path by accident. You were chosen not because it was easy, but because you had the strength to endure when it was hardest. You've crossed so many lines already, lines that broke others. But this next one, this is the last line before everything changes. Your name is being written in new places. Your territory is about to expand. Get ready to step into rooms you once prayed for. Get ready to receive what your past tried to disqualify you from. And as you do, don't forget who you are. God's chosen one, entrusted with more than just wealth, but with purpose, power, and legacy. As one of God's chosen ones, you have endured a path that most would never survive. The trials didn't just knock at your door, they camped there, and still you rose. You've been misunderstood by the very people you once supported, doubted by friends who should have known your heart, and at times quietly envied by those who couldn't comprehend the weight of your calling. Have you ever noticed how some people grew uncomfortable just being in your presence, without you even saying a word? That's because the light you carry speaks louder than any title, and for those still bound by insecurity, your very existence feels like a confrontation. But the isolation wasn't a punishment, it was preparation. Every betrayal, every silent night filled with unanswered questions, every season where you were overlooked and underestimated, they were all divinely designed to mold you. Like David, who was anointed in private long before he ever stepped onto the battlefield with Goliath, you too were prepared in obscurity before the world ever heard your name. Do you see now that those setbacks weren't really setbacks? They were sacred shaping moments. Each wound became a well of wisdom. Every closed door became a classroom. What you thought was delay was actually divine timing. And now heaven is ready to restore and reward. The blessings coming to you will not only match your pain, they will surpass your imagination. Just as Job received double after his trials, you too are stepping into divine compensation. Not because you begged for it, but because you endured with faith. Still, don't be fooled into thinking this is only about your personal gain. You weren't chosen just to collect wealth. You were chosen to carry it with sacred purpose. Why do you think your struggle was so prolonged? Why do you think the pressure was so intense? It's because your blessings aren't just yours. They're tied to generations, communities, movements. The calling on your life isn't small, it's kingdom-sized. That's why the fire had to be hotter, because the mantle you carry is heavier. Think of Queen Esther again. She didn't receive her royal position so she could live in comfort. She was placed there to rescue an entire people. Her rise wasn't for applause, it was for impact. You are walking that same path. The resources that are coming to you, whether financial, relational, or spiritual, are not random. They are divine strategies placed in your hands to rebuild what was broken and to elevate others who still feel stuck in the pit you've already escaped. And if the world has tried to tell you that you must choose between spiritual depth and material abundance, it has lied. The lie that holiness means lack is crumbling before your eyes. You are the proof that divine alignment brings divine overflow. The wealth being drawn to you isn't greed, it's growth. It's not vanity, it's victory. Scripture reminds us in Deuteronomy that it is the Lord your God who gives you the power to produce wealth. And that power is not for selfish indulgence, but for covenant fulfillment. You've cultivated this abundance not through manipulation, but through maturity. While others sought shortcuts, you sought stillness. While the world chased quick success, you dug deep into spiritual alignment. That's why your harvest will be different. Your millions are not the end goal. They are the tools you will use to build, to bless, and to awaken others to their purpose. Have you paused lately to reflect on just how far you've come? To recognize that every scar carries the fingerprint of God's faithfulness, that the fire didn't burn you, it refined you. You're not just entering a season of abundance. You're entering a realm of divine rulership. Your life is no longer a whisper. It's about to become a declaration. From this point forward, everything begins to shift. You are not the same person who once doubted, who once played small, who once asked for permission to be seen. You are rising into a new realm of power, one where your influence multiplies, your impact deepens, and your legacy begins to unfold. This is not survival, this is supernatural thriving. And the world will soon witness the glory of your transformation, not for vanity, but for victory, not to impress, but to illuminate. You are stepping into your moment, not just to shine, but to lead others into the light. For so many of God's chosen ones, the journey doesn't begin with applause or favor. It begins in silence, in hiddenness, in scarcity. Have you noticed how the beginning of your story was marked by seasons of not having enough? Financial droughts, emotional loneliness, spiritual hunger. And yet, even when you lacked externally, there was something inside of you that refused to die. Why is it that chosen ones often begin their journey in such lack? Could it be that God was allowing you to taste the valley so you could later carry compassion at the mountaintop? This season of scarcity was never a punishment, it was sacred preparation. Think of the Israelites wandering the desert. For 40 years they lived with just enough, manna for the day, water from rocks, shoes that didn't wear out. They weren't abandoned, they were being conditioned. God used that wilderness to shape their identity, to purge them of the slavery mindset so they could carry the promised land with honor. In the same way, your seasons of going without were not evidence of failure. They were evidence of divine formation. You were being trained. Scarcity taught you the value of contentment. Lack trained your eyes to see miracles in small things. And while others developed entitlement in abundance, you were learning wisdom in struggle. Isn't it interesting how deeply you now appreciate the things that others take for granted? That's not a coincidence. It's a sign of your spiritual maturity. And now, everything is shifting. The scarcity that once defined your circumstances is being replaced by divine surplus. But this is not a random change. It's a revelation. Your mindset is being upgraded. You're shedding the layers of limitation and stepping into the reality of limitless provision. Just as Elijah saw the cloud the size of a man's hand and knew the rain was coming, You too are starting to see subtle signs, conversations that shift unexpectedly in your favor, doors that were previously sealed now swinging open, resources flowing where there was once only dryness. Do you sense it? That quiet but undeniable hum of divine abundance approaching? This transformation rarely happens overnight. It unfolds layer by layer, like the turning of a page in a sacred book. But if you pay attention, you'll realize the pages are turning faster now. Your reality is responding to the internal shift that's already taken place. Your energy has changed. Your posture has changed. The world is starting to respond to who you've always been. God's chosen, not hidden, not forgotten, but prepared for such a time as this. Think of how Ruth went from gleaning leftover barley in a stranger's field to owning that field as Boaz's wife. Her entire life changed, not because she forced her way into abundance, but because she remained faithful in the field of scarcity. That's your story too. You stayed when others left. You praised when others complained. You obeyed when the reward wasn't in sight. And now is the time of harvest. People may begin to say that you're lucky, that things are suddenly easy for you, but they'll never understand the cost behind the glow, the years of hidden obedience, the tears you cried while still showing up, the way you gave when you had almost nothing to offer. That's the kind of soil where true abundance takes root. You are stepping into the energy of abundance, not just financially, but in relationships, influence, joy, and spiritual authority. What once took you years will now happen in weeks. What once seemed unreachable is now drawn to you naturally. Do you feel that? That sense that the old struggle is losing its grip on you. But even more powerful than the blessings themselves is your readiness to carry them. That's what separates you from the rest. You're not just willing to receive, you are ready to be responsible. You know this abundance isn't for ego, it's for elevation, not for show, but for service. This is your divine transition, from not enough to more than enough, from overlooked to ordained, from survival to overflow. And the most beautiful part, the world is about to see what God has always known about you. It's vital for you, as one of God's chosen ones, to understand that true abundance goes far beyond money. Though yes, the wealth you once only dared to dream of is now making its way toward you. But if you think abundance is only about large bank accounts, you're missing the deeper miracle. Divine abundance touches everything: your peace, your health, your purpose, your relationships, and your joy. Have you ever felt the quiet, sacred thrill of waking up and realizing that you're finally in alignment with your calling? That your days aren't driven by survival, but by significance? That's abundance. It's when your heart no longer aches with anxiety and your spirit no longer lives in fear of lack, because deep down you finally know you're being carried by something greater. This is what happens when your vibration shifts. As your spiritual frequency rises, the things you used to chase now begin to chase you. You're no longer begging for opportunities, they're looking for you. You're no longer striving to be seen, you're glowing with a presence that cannot be ignored. Much like Jesus said in Matthew chapter 6, "Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." You've done the seeking, and now it's your time for the adding. But here lies one of the most critical spiritual lessons you must now embrace. You must release fear, not just surface fear, but the deep buried fear that abundance could be temporary, that maybe it's too good to be true, that it could slip away. Can you recognize that voice? It's the voice of the old mindset, the voice of the wilderness. But you are no longer in Egypt. You are walking into the promised land. Fear of not having enough, gone. Fear of losing what you've been given, powerless now. Fear that you'll wake up one day and find it all was a dream. That fear is a lie. The truth is, as one chosen by God, your supply isn't random, it's righteous. Your provision isn't accidental, it's covenant. just as God provided manna daily for his people in the desert. Not once, not occasionally, but every single day, he will provide for you. The heavens are not stingy. The universe under divine command is conspiring for your highest good. And in case you still need a reminder, you've already earned this, not through perfection, but through perseverance, not through ease, but through endurance. Everything you've endured, the rejections, the delays, the nights spent questioning your worth, those were not signs of failure. They were the proof of your preparation. You didn't just wish for abundance, you were being forged for it. Think about someone like Viola Davis. Her early years were marked by extreme poverty, hunger, and shame, but she didn't let scarcity define her. She carried that pain, transformed it into purpose, and eventually stood on stages that once felt unreachable. And now, with awards in her hands and impact in her voice, she uses her abundance to uplift others. That is what chosen abundance looks like, blessing not just yourself, but every soul connected to your mission. This is your inheritance, chosen one. Not just a financial shift, but a soul shift, a generational shift. You are breaking cycles, not only for yourself, but for those who will come after you. That's why this moment feels so weighty, because it's holy. You are not just stepping into abundance, you are stepping into legacy. So now, as your life begins to reflect everything you once prayed for, peace in your mind, clarity in your path, favor in your finances, let go of every belief that once whispered, "Not enough." Let go of the lie that you must struggle to be holy. Let go of the fear that says this is temporary. You are no longer living in fragments. You are being made whole. This chapter marks the beginning of your divine era, a chapter not defined by chasing, but by attracting, not by fear, but by trust, not by scarcity, but by supernatural overflow. And as you fully embrace this shift, don't be surprised when miracles feel normal, when breakthroughs arrive unannounced, and when dreams you buried begin to bloom without effort. This isn't coincidence. This is covenant. You've reached the moment you were born for. Welcome to your inheritance. Welcome to your divine abundance. Watch now as heaven manifests everything you thought was too far away. It's all yours, because you are His. What truly distinguishes you as one of God's chosen ones is not just your gifts, your resilience, or your ability to endure. It's your unshakable faith, that quiet, powerful faith that held firm even when there was no physical evidence to support it. When doors were closed, when prayers seemed unanswered, when everything around you whispered, "Give up," you still believed. Why? Because somewhere deep inside, you always sensed that your life was being orchestrated by something higher, something holy. And now, as you approach the threshold of your greatest manifestation, the dreams you've nurtured in silence, the abundance that was written into your destiny from the beginning, that same faith must not only continue, it must expand. Have you ever wondered why your path demanded such deep trust? Why the evidence was withheld just long enough to make belief a choice rather than a reaction? It's because faith, real faith, doesn't wait for signs. It creates them. Think of Abraham, who was called the father of faith, not because he saw the fulfillment immediately, but because he believed God's promise even when it seemed impossible. He looked at the stars, childless, yet held the vision of descendants as numerous as the sky. That's the kind of belief that shifts atmospheres, and that's the kind of belief that has carried you. Now, in this moment, this sacred edge between preparation and fulfillment, your faith becomes the key that unlocks the realm of miracles. It's not enough to hope vaguely for abundance. You must believe with every fiber of your being that the millions, the prosperity, the peace, the joy, and the overflow are not only coming, they already belong to you. This isn't wishful thinking, it's spiritual inheritance. Scripture reminds us in Hebrews 11 that Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. In other words, your belief is not the absence of reality, it is the birthplace of it. Chosen one, your faith has already accomplished more than you may realize. Have you taken time to reflect on the storms you've already weathered, the odds you've shattered, the silent battles you've won with nothing but trust in your heart? When you had no plan but still moved forward, wasn't that faith? When you were overlooked but didn't retaliate, wasn't that belief in a higher justice? When you sowed seeds in seasons of lack, wasn't that a declaration of trust? And now, that very faith is about to reward you in ways that will leave you speechless, just as the walls of Jericho fell not through force but through faithful obedience. Your biggest barriers are about to collapse under the weight of your unwavering belief. Can you feel it? That inner shift where doubt begins to lose its voice and hope rises louder. But let's be honest, there will still be moments when doubt creeps in. Even Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane felt the weight of what lay ahead and cried out in anguish. Faith doesn't mean never feeling fear, it means choosing to move anyway, knowing that God walks with you through the fire. And like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you'll find that the fire doesn't burn chosen ones, it purifies them, it reveals their true nature. I remember hearing the story of Sarah Jakes Roberts, who faced public failure, teen pregnancy, and shame early in her life. Many dismissed her, but through relentless faith, she rose into her calling. She believed that her story wasn't over, and now she leads millions into healing and purpose. That same kind of restoration and rise is available to you because your faith has been refined in fire. And here's the beauty. Your faith is no longer fragile, it's fortified. You've walked through the valley of the shadow of death, and now you fear no evil. You've seen God sustain you with just enough, and now you're ready to steward more than enough. This is the moment where belief turns into breakthrough, where trust births transformation, where the unseen becomes undeniable. As you take this final step into the fullness of your destiny, let your faith roar louder than your fear. Let your memory of past victories be the fuel that pushes you forward. You are not the person who started this journey. You are stronger, wiser, and more aligned than ever. And this time, your belief won't just carry you through the storm, it will usher you into the promise. As you prepare to cross into the realm of abundance that has always been written into your destiny, it's vital to understand that faith isn't just a key, it's the door itself. The spiritual realm doesn't respond to effort alone, it responds to frequency. And your frequency, your belief, has remained unshaken, even in moments when everything around you looked like it was falling apart. Isn't it powerful to think that while others were waiting for proof, you kept walking by faith? That when the path was foggy and filled with uncertainty, you still moved forward as if the vision had already come to pass. The truth is, this abundance you're about to receive, the millions, the divine connections, the elevation, isn't simply a reward for what you've done. It's a mirror reflecting who you are and who you've always been. Faithful, chosen, and unrelenting in your trust. When the world around you doubted, when your ideas were dismissed, when your heart silently broke from rejection, you still carried the flame of belief. That flame is what heaven is now responding to. Do you remember Noah? He built an ark when there was no rain, no flood, no evidence, just a word, and yet he kept building day after day, while others mocked him. That's you. You've built in silence. You've prayed without applause. You've invested in your growth when no one saw the point. And now the floodgates of blessing are about to open, not to drown you, but to lift you. The abundance ahead isn't sudden. It's earned through unseen faith. At the very center of your journey lies a sacred knowing. Nothing in your life has happened by accident. Every delay was divine. Every closed door was redirection. Every heartbreak was pruning. You were not being punished. You were being positioned. And now the reward for that alignment is manifesting in ways that will leave even your doubters stunned. You'll see it in open doors you didn't knock on, in favor you didn't chase, in resources you couldn't have engineered. Because when faith meets divine timing, miracles have no choice but to arrive. And these blessings, they're not just for comfort. They are holy assignments wrapped in favor. The prosperity flowing into your life is meant to fund visions, heal generations, and amplify your voice. Just as Solomon asked not for riches but for wisdom and received both, you too are about to discover that true wealth is attracted to divine purpose. Even in today's world, there are people walking this path. Consider someone like Steve Harvey. Once homeless, sleeping in his car, laughed at for his dreams, yet he stayed loyal to his calling. He believed in his anointing even when there was no applause. And now his abundance isn't just financial, it's generational, purposeful, and deeply spiritual. That kind of rise only happens when faith refuses to die. So, chosen one, hear this. You have already won the battle that mattered most, the battle to keep believing. Now your external world must align with your internal truth. The millions coming your way are not random. They are recognition. They are heaven's confirmation that your vision was never delusional. It was prophetic. Hold tightly to your faith now, not because it's hard, but because you're so close to the breakthrough you once cried for, so close to the moment where your one day becomes today. This is not the end of your journey, it's the birth of your reign. Your story is about to shift from survival to supernatural overflow, and what's coming is far beyond wealth. It's influence, legacy, impact. The world is about to witness the extraordinary unfold in your life. Not just because of what you did, but because of who you are. You are chosen, you are trusted, and now you are rising. To truly rise into the wealth and prosperity that now await you, chosen one, you must do more than receive blessings. You must become abundance. That begins with fully embracing the mindset that abundance is not something you chase. It's who you are. What if the only thing standing between you and everything you've prayed for isn't a lack of opportunity, but a lingering belief that you're still unworthy to receive it? This moment, right now, is your invitation to let go of those outdated thoughts. You are no longer confined by what you've been through, how others have defined you, or even how your old self once saw the world. You are limitless. And the shift to an abundance mindset is the doorway to your divine inheritance. This transformation goes beyond the material. It's not just about money, it's about identity. An abundance mindset means you believe, at the core of your soul, that the universe is not limited, that God's supply is not scarce, that blessings are not a competition. Think of the loaves and fishes in the hands of Jesus. What started as barely enough fed thousands, and there were baskets left over. That's what happens when the divine touches what you have. Scarcity becomes surplus. Desperation becomes overflow. Do you realize that you are already connected to this same divine flow? As one of God's chosen ones, your life is hardwired into the current of provision. You don't need to fight, hustle, or strive like the world taught you. What if you could simply align and attract instead of chase? This isn't just a luxury. It's not for the lucky few. This is your birthright. You were born for abundance. It was written into your destiny before you took your first breath. In Romans chapter 8, verse 28, we're reminded that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are the called according to his purpose. And that includes you. The pain, the closed doors, the long nights. They weren't detours. They were divine setups. Every delay was preparing your spirit. Every heartbreak was softening your heart to receive. Can you see now how even the losses were leading you here? You are standing on sacred ground. This is the beginning of your overflow season, and adopting an abundance mindset is the key that unlocks every part of it. Because when you believe that there is more than enough, you stop shrinking. You stop apologizing for wanting more. You stop questioning if you're too much for others. You realize that the Creator of the universe made you in His image, and He is not lacking in anything. But abundance doesn't stop at wealth. It is holistic. It encompasses love, healing, peace, joy, purpose, creativity, freedom, and divine timing. Have you noticed how the more aligned you become, the more effortlessly things start to flow? The right people show up, the right doors open, the right answers reveal themselves, not by force, but by faith. That's not coincidence. That's spiritual alignment. And when things feel delayed, remember, even Joseph had to sit in prison before he was elevated to rule over Egypt. Yet when God opened that door, everything changed in a single day. One moment of divine alignment can do what years of effort never could. That is the power of this mindset. You stop measuring time and start trusting timing. Ephesians 3:20 declares that God is able to do exceedingly, abundantly above all that we ask or think. Take a moment. What have you dared to ask for? What dreams have you quietly held in your heart, thinking they were too big, too bold, too much? God says they're not even close to all He has in store. His abundance is greater than your imagination, wider than your vision, deeper than your prayers. Chosen one, you are now in the realm where miracles begin to look like daily life, where peace is no longer a fleeting moment, but a lasting state, where love finds you, favor surrounds you, and resources chase you down. This is the life that awaits you when you surrender to the truth. You were made for more. Let go of the scarcity lens. Say goodbye to survival thinking. Walk boldly into this next chapter, knowing that lack no longer belongs in your story. You are not here to barely get by. You are here to demonstrate what divine abundance looks like in human form. Now pause, chosen one, and reflect on this. What if gratitude is the secret key that unlocks not just what you need, but more than you dared to dream? The power of gratitude is not just emotional, it is spiritual law. Gratitude is not a passive feeling. It's not reserved only for the big wins. It's an active force, a daily choice, a sacred rhythm that aligns you with the heartbeat of heaven. When you choose to give thanks, even when the blessing is small, even when the promise hasn't yet materialized, you're declaring, "I trust you, God, even now." Have you ever thanked God before the breakthrough? Praised Him in the hallway before the door even opened? That kind of gratitude becomes a spiritual magnet. It multiplies. Jesus Himself demonstrated this when He gave thanks for 5 loaves and 2 fish. He didn't complain about the lack. He blessed what looked like not enough, and the moment gratitude touched it, it became overflow. That same principle applies to your life. When you bless what you already have, heaven blesses you with more. As 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 18 tells us, "In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you." In everything, not just when it's easy, not just when you feel like it, but in everything. Gratitude is not just a good habit, it's divine alignment. When you thank God in the storm, you're testifying that your peace is rooted not in what you see, but in who you know He is. This is the sacred posture you now carry as a chosen one. From this moment on, you are no longer operating from a place of lack. You are stepping into a new normal, a realm where abundance isn't a surprise. It's your reality. No more fear of not enough. No more stress over provision. Because you know now, deep in your spirit, that the same God who carried you through the wilderness is the one who's bringing you into the land of promise. And yes, the millions, the resources, the wealth, they are on their way. but they are only the evidence of what has already shifted within you. Your true wealth is the spiritual gold you've cultivated in the fire. Unshakable faith, unwavering hope, and now overflowing gratitude. That's the kind of inner richness that cannot be stolen, taxed, or lost. Have you noticed how lately your energy has shifted? How people are responding differently to you? How opportunities seem to be coming more effortlessly? That's not just luck, that's alignment. You are attracting what you've already become, whole, abundant, grounded. And as you continue to align with this frequency, this divine rhythm, more will flow to you. Not by hustle, but by grace. Not by force, but by faith. Look at the story of the 10 lepers Jesus healed in the Gospel of Luke. All 10 were healed, but only one returned to say thank you. And it was that one who received not only healing, but wholeness. Why? Because gratitude completes the miracle. Your thankfulness is the oil that keeps the flow of favor burning bright. Even in modern life, this principle holds true. Take someone like Denzel Washington. He openly shares how gratitude and faith have anchored his success. In his speeches, he reminds others to put God first and to say thank you every morning before asking for anything. That's the life of a chosen one. Grateful before the gift arrives and faithful even when it's unseen. So now, chosen one, keep your heart open. Keep your faith burning, and above all, let your gratitude pour out like a river, not because everything is perfect, but because God's hand is on everything. Every detail, every delay, every blessing. You are in the flow now. This journey is no longer just about material success. It's about a life of divine purpose, sacred fulfillment, and supernatural ease. The best is not behind you. The best is not even here yet. The best is still coming. And with a grateful heart, you'll be ready to receive it all. Gratitude, chosen one, is not just a nice feeling. It is spiritual power. It is one of the most potent forces you've ever been given. And in your hands, it becomes a divine instrument for unlocking realms of abundance the world can't explain. Gratitude is more than saying thank you. It's a declaration to heaven and earth that you recognize the flow of favor in your life, even when you're still standing in the hallway, waiting for the next door to open. Have you ever whispered thankfulness through your tears, even when the outcome was unclear? That was not weakness, that was worship. The truly chosen understand this principle at a level others do not. That's why, even during your hardest seasons, you didn't collapse into bitterness. You chose to see the silver lining in the storm, to notice the flicker of light in the dark, to thank God not just for deliverance, but for endurance. That's why the energy of gratitude is now more crucial than ever as you stand at the threshold of receiving millions, not just in wealth, but in influence, peace, and divine favor. You've already shown the universe and your Creator that you are ready, because you didn't wait for the blessing to feel blessed. You were already living in thanksgiving. Gratitude shifts your atmosphere. It turns a prison into a place of praise. Just look at Paul and Silas. They were chained, locked away in a cell, and yet they sang. Their praise didn't just encourage their own hearts, it shook the prison foundations. Doors flew open, chains fell. Gratitude didn't just comfort them, it set them free. And in your own journey, haven't you seen how gratitude lifted you out of heaviness? How it pulled you into peace, even when everything around you seemed chaotic? When you are thankful for the little, you prepare yourself for the much. Luke chapter 16 verse 10 tells us plainly, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much." Gratitude is how you prove that trust. It's how you tell God, "I honor the small." And when God sees that, He responds by pouring out the more. Your gratitude has made you trustworthy. Think of it like this. Each time you said thank you for the breath in your lungs, for the quiet meal, for the unexpected smile, for the answered prayer that didn't come how you expected. You were planting seeds, seeds of faith, seeds of spiritual maturity, and now those seeds are about to bloom into a harvest so abundant, even your past self wouldn't believe it. Philippians 4:6 gives you the divine formula for overflow. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Gratitude is not something you add to your prayers as an afterthought. It is the posture that activates them. That means your blessings didn't just arrive today. They began forming the moment you thanked God yesterday. Even when you faced rejection, you still gave thanks. Even when the money was tight, you whispered, "God, I know you'll make a way." That kind of attitude is rare, and it's powerful. You've carried yourself with kingdom dignity, even when the world couldn't see the crown on your head. And now, heaven is answering. This is why the millions are coming, not as a random windfall, but as a divine reflection of the heart you've maintained. A heart that remained grateful in drought and is now ready to steward abundance with wisdom. James 1:17 reminds you, every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights. These blessings that are rushing into your life, they aren't ordinary. They are perfectly timed, perfectly crafted, perfectly designed for your story. And why are they coming now? Because you've prepared the atmosphere for them. Your prayers weren't empty words. Your praise wasn't for show. Your gratitude has been the incense rising to heaven, and now the rain is falling. Chosen one, think back. How many times could you have given up, but instead you chose to thank God for the strength to keep going? How many moments could have turned you bitter, but you chose to bless instead? Those moments mattered. Heaven saw, and now you are reaping what your gratitude has sown. You are not just receiving abundance, you are walking into a divine harvest, one that was nourished by every tear, every prayer, every whispered thank you in the dark. As you cross into this sacred new phase of financial prosperity, chosen one, let gratitude remain your foundation. Don't just see it as a practice, embrace it as a posture, a way of life. Gratitude is the spiritual anchor that will keep your soul steady when millions begin to pour into your hands. Why is this so important? Because wealth without gratitude becomes dangerous, but wealth held by a grateful heart becomes divine. Your consistent thanksgiving is what keeps the flow of heaven open over your life. Each time you acknowledge the source of your blessings, you invite even greater abundance into your world. Gratitude is not just about being thankful for what has arrived, it's about preparing your spirit for what is still coming. And what's coming is limitless. Have you considered that there is no ceiling on what God can do through you? No boundary on the provision available to a surrendered vessel. Psalm 84:11 reminds us that no good thing will he withhold from those who walk uprightly. That means the only limit is your capacity to believe, to receive, and to remain rooted in gratitude. Your destiny is not tied to numbers, it's tied to purpose. And the more you remain thankful, the more heaven entrusts into your hands. Yes, the millions are coming, but so are doors you didn't knock on, partnerships you never pursued, ideas that multiply overnight, healing in places you forgot were wounded. This is what happens when you live in gratitude. You become a magnet for miracles. So never stop giving thanks, not just for the big breakthroughs, but for every penny, every open door, every conversation dripping with favor. When you thank God for the little, you train your heart to steward the overflow. And as you remain faithful in gratitude, you'll find that the river of abundance doesn't just visit, it dwells. Think of the one leper in Luke 17 who returned to thank Jesus after being healed. 10 were healed, but only one came back in gratitude, and he was the one who was made whole. Gratitude didn't just bless him, it completed him. And the same is true for you. Your gratitude won't just attract wealth, it will seal your wholeness. This is only the beginning. The abundance before you is not a one-time event. It's the opening of a lifelong covenant, and your thankfulness is what keeps that covenant alive. Every time you express appreciation, you're telling heaven, I'm ready for more. And heaven responds. So continue, chosen one. Keep your spirit wide open. Let your prayers echo with thanksgiving. Thank God for the millions already written into your story. Thank Him for the clarity to use them well. Thank Him for the strength to carry this calling. Because this isn't just about wealth, it's about witness. You're not just being blessed, you're becoming a blessing. You're not just receiving abundance, you're walking into divine impact. And your gratitude is the oil that keeps the fire of purpose burning bright. Having millions in the bank, chosen one, is merely the surface of what God has prepared for you. While that financial abundance is real and on its way, it's not the highest form of wealth. The greater treasure lies in what's being cultivated within you. The birth of a millionaire mindset rooted in divine responsibility. This mindset is not about greed or self-indulgence. It's about purpose. True chosen ones don't just receive wealth. They carry the sacred assignment of stewarding it well. Can you feel it stirring in your spirit? The understanding that your financial breakthrough is tied to something much greater than your comfort. What sets you apart is this shift. You don't see wealth as a trophy, but as a tool. You're not chasing money to escape your past. You're embracing it to build the future God showed you. You're not asking, how much can I get? But rather, how much impact can I make? That's why God is preparing you, not just to receive, but to reign with wisdom. Your prosperity is not about flaunting, it's about funding transformation. It's about blessing those who once ignored, judged, or misunderstood you. Just like Joseph, who went from the pit to the palace, your journey is not just about rising, it's about rising for a reason. When Pharaoh handed Joseph the keys to Egypt's wealth, it wasn't for Joseph's vanity. It was so he could feed nations during famine. What if your millions are meant to become manna for someone else's survival? This mindset, this divine posture toward wealth, starts by seeing money as a current of energy, not a symbol of power. Money flows where purpose lives. It's not something to worship, chase, or stash away in fear. It is a resource, flowing from the source. And if you've ever wondered why some people with millions still feel empty, it's because money without mission leads to spiritual bankruptcy. In contrast, you are learning to view money like Moses viewed his staff, something seemingly ordinary, but when touched by God, it parts seas. Remember the parable Jesus told in the book of Matthew, where a master entrusted his servants with talents before leaving on a journey. The servant who multiplied his portion was honored, but the one who buried his out of fear was condemned. Why? Because he misunderstood the nature of the gift. He operated from survival, not stewardship. God is calling you out of that old mindset. Are there still areas where fear has kept you from using what you've been given? Have you hidden your gifts while waiting for a perfect moment to act? Let me be honest. I've been there too. There was a season when I had opportunities in front of me, doors wide open. But I hesitated. I thought I needed more time, more preparation. But the truth was, I hadn't yet accepted that God had already qualified me. And when I finally stepped forward, even trembling, that's when provision started to show up in miraculous ways. It wasn't just about money, it was about obedience, alignment, and mindset. That's why this moment is so critical for you. You're not just waiting on the millions, you're being shaped into the kind of person who can handle them with grace, humility, and power. This isn't about a windfall, it's about a transformation. As you draw closer to this next season, can you sense the inner shift that's already begun? You've been breaking generational curses. You've endured silent seasons where no one saw the battle behind your smile. And now heaven is answering with abundance. As Scripture affirms in the third letter of John, chapter 1, verse 2, "Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, even as your soul prospers." This prosperity isn't just a bank balance, it's a life in full bloom. Your soul has already blossomed, and now your environment is catching up. You've healed the inner wounds, released the trauma, and surrendered your ego. That's why the outer rewards are finally arriving. It's not luck, it's alignment. We often celebrate the wealth of famous figures like Tyler Perry, who went from living in his car to owning a billion-dollar studio. But beneath that wealth was a purpose he never abandoned, a calling he refused to silence. You carry that same spiritual DNA. Your millions will not define you. They will amplify who you've become. So now, chosen one, as you cross this final line, understand that you are not stepping into luxury for its own sake. You are stepping into the realm of impact, of divine influence. The million realm is not just a destination. It is a spiritual territory that God trusts you to occupy. Will you walk through that door with open hands and a ready heart? No. One of the most important breakthroughs you will ever experience, chosen one, is the moment you finally accept that you deserve to be wealthy, not in a prideful or greedy way, but in a holy, grounded, God-ordained way. Why has it taken so long for you to believe this? Could it be that somewhere along your journey you were taught that money is evil, that desiring more meant you were selfish, or that staying small was more spiritual? These lies have clung to your soul like invisible chains, but now the Spirit is calling you to break free from them. Your Father in heaven never designed you for lack. He is not a God of barely enough. He is the God of more than enough. Just listen to what is declared in the book of Deuteronomy. "But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth." That ability is not reserved for the elite or the famous. It lives inside of you. The same God who gave Joseph the wisdom to interpret dreams and rule over Egypt has given you divine intelligence, creativity, and favor for wealth building. Can you imagine what would happen if you finally stopped apologizing for the abundance He's trying to give you? Many of God's chosen ones have carried invisible guilt when money comes their way. They give it away too quickly. They sabotage opportunities. They lower their prices. They shrink themselves so others won't feel small. But it's time to stop running from your inheritance. If your heart is pure and your motives are aligned with God's will, then wealth is not a burden. It is a blessing. It's not sinful to desire more when your mission is to do more good. And your mission is holy. That's why you've been chosen. The deeper truth is this: your millions are not just a reward for surviving life's battles. They are a divine trust, a part of your heavenly assignment. And with that trust comes tremendous purpose. You are being raised up not just to succeed, but to serve. The mindset you're stepping into is not about consumption, but about contribution. It's not about asking, "How much can I gain?" but "How much can I give?" This shift is what separates worldly wealth from kingdom wealth. The words of Jesus in Luke resonate here. To whom much is given, much will be required. That's not a threat. It's a sacred invitation. God isn't just handing you millions to bless your life. He's positioning you as a vessel through which nations will be blessed. Think of Esther, chosen in silence for a position she didn't ask for, yet used by God to save her people. Or Nehemiah, who leveraged royal resources not for himself, but to rebuild a broken city. Have you considered that your wealth may be the answer to someone else's prayer? I've seen this firsthand. A close friend of mine, raised in a single-parent home, constantly told she would never amount to much, built a thriving business. When the millions came, she didn't run to buy designer bags. She built a school in her mother's hometown. She funded therapy for women who couldn't afford it. She tithed with joy, not guilt. Watching her taught me this truth. Money only magnifies what's already in the heart. And chosen one, your heart has been purified by fire. Imagine what your wealth could do. You could erase generational debt that has haunted your bloodline for decades. You could open shelters, launch ministries, support orphanages, or simply give someone their first chance in life. You could send missionaries to places you may never visit, yet still be part of the miracles happening there. Your hands may never touch every life, but your obedience could. But let's not overlook the internal transformation that must come first. Wealth without wisdom is dangerous. Abundance without maturity can become a trap. That's why God has taken His time with you, refining your character, testing your motives, and shaping your heart. You are not late. You are right on time. The millions that are approaching your life are waiting on the full activation of your mindset, the spiritual readiness that says, I am prepared to serve, lead, and multiply. Chosen one, having a millionaire mindset means your identity is not tied to numbers on a screen, but to purpose in your soul. It means recognizing that you are a conduit of divine overflow. It's about walking into a room, not to be seen as rich, but to bring solutions, healing, and hope. It means you are not intimidated by large numbers. You are humbled by the opportunity to make eternal impact. And as you step into this new chapter, let your heart be set on things above. Let your goals stretch beyond luxury and into legacy. Understand that you were never meant to chase after the blessings, because now the blessings are about to start chasing after you. This is what it truly means to carry a millionaire mindset, not to be owned by your wealth, but to own your purpose so boldly that your wealth finds you and follows you. Are you ready to walk through this door? One of the most subtle yet powerful battles you may face as a chosen one isn't just lack, rejection, or hardship. It's the unexpected fear of success. Strange, isn't it? Why would anyone fear the very thing they've prayed, cried, and fought for? But if you've been in survival mode for years, navigating storms, carrying silent burdens, being misunderstood, it's easy to grow more comfortable with struggle than with stability. When life has conditioned you to expect hardship, the arrival of abundance can feel unfamiliar, even threatening. Could it be that a part of you has grown so used to waiting for the other shoe to drop that you've started to question whether you're truly ready to win? This is a common crossroads for many of God's chosen ones. After enduring so much, receiving blessings can feel like stepping into foreign territory. But hear this clearly: you are ready. The success approaching your life is not a fluke. It is not a random act of fortune. It is the fruit of divine timing and sacred endurance. You've walked through fire and didn't burn. You've survived nights that should have broken you. You've been humbled, purified, and refined. Why would heaven now hand you something you're unfit to carry? The answer is, it wouldn't. The millions coming your way are not a test. They are a confirmation. They are heaven's way of saying, well done. Now build with what I've given you. Think of David. Before he ever became king, he was a shepherd boy who fought lions and bears in silence. No applause, no crown, just obedience and courage. So when the time came to face Goliath, he didn't shrink. He stepped forward. Why? Because he knew his private victories had prepared him for public success. What if your hidden battles have been your lion and bear moments, and now it's time to face your Goliath of greatness? And yet, self-doubt lingers. Those quiet questions surface. Can I handle this? Will it change me? What if I mess it up? These questions aren't signs of weakness. They are evidence that your heart still desires to walk humbly before God. But doubt cannot be your guide anymore. Remember what the Apostle Paul wrote to the Corinthians: God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. This means that what is coming into your life is within your capacity to handle. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be arriving now. The very fact that success is knocking at your door means that heaven already sees you as trustworthy. I've watched people I love reach their dreams, only to be paralyzed by fear. One friend received a life-changing offer, something she had dreamed of for years. But instead of celebrating, she fell into anxiety. "What if I fail?" she whispered. And I remember telling her, "But what if you soar?" She took the leap, and today she's not only thriving financially, but has created opportunities for others, hiring people from her old neighborhood, mentoring young girls, and funding scholarships. Her story reminds me of this truth. Success isn't something to fear, it's something to steward. But perhaps the greatest fear isn't about failing, it's about changing. Will this new season alter who you are? Will the weight of wealth distort your purpose? Let's be honest, this is a fear many chosen ones carry in secret. You've seen people get rich and lose their soul. You've seen generosity turn to arrogance, mission replaced by materialism. And maybe a part of you is scared that having more might make you less of who God called you to be. But here's the truth that silences that fear. Money does not change who you are, it reveals it. Wealth is not a corrupter, it's a magnifier. If your heart is already surrendered to God, if your intentions are already pure, then having more will simply give you more room to do good. Proverbs teaches us to honor the Lord with our wealth and with the first fruits of all our increase. And you are already someone who puts God first, even when you had little. Do you really think you'll stop doing that now? The people who fear wealth the most are often the ones God can trust with it. Why? Because they carry reverence, not entitlement. Because they remember what it was like to go without. You will not forget where you came from, and you will not be consumed by what's coming. Instead, you will be empowered. The success you're walking into will expand your ability to serve, to build, to uplift, to give, and to guide others out of the same valleys you once walked through alone. Chosen one, you were not born to live in the shadows of your potential. You were not called to play small. The fear you're feeling is not a warning. It's the final echo of your old self trying to hold you back. But you've already outgrown that version of you. Step into the abundance. Welcome the success. Embrace the responsibility. Because what's coming to you is not meant to crush you, it's meant to crown you. And now that the door is open, will you walk through it without fear? Success is not something to shrink away from. It is something to run toward with joy, reverence, and bold anticipation. Chosen one, your time has come. The gates of abundance are open before you, and you're no longer standing in the wilderness of waiting. You're stepping into the promised land. So why should this moment, after all you've endured, be met with fear? Why not meet it with awe and gratitude, with the confidence that everything you've walked through was designed to bring you here? It's easy to see how fear of success can take root. When you've survived betrayal, loss, and endless waiting, your nervous system can become more familiar with disappointment than fulfillment. Success can feel like unfamiliar ground, even suspicious, like it's too good to be true. But that voice in your head whispering, "What if it all falls apart?" That's not the voice of truth. That's the residue of old battles, the trauma of former seasons trying to cling to your new one. And it must be silenced. Let's be clear, this success is not a trap. It's not a setup for a fall. It's the unveiling of everything you've prayed for in private. It's what happens when divine timing meets faithful endurance. The universe, God Himself, does not bless what He hasn't first prepared. And you? You've been in the furnace of preparation for years. Through tears no one saw, through valleys no one understood. But heaven saw, heaven kept record, and now heaven has decided. It's your turn. Consider again the story of Joseph. His journey wasn't just difficult, it was devastating. Thrown into a pit by his own blood, falsely accused, imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. And yet through it all, Joseph never allowed bitterness to bury him. When Pharaoh had a need no one else could solve, Joseph was remembered. Not only remembered, exalted, given charge over all of Egypt. His wisdom saved a nation, and his forgiveness restored a family. Can you see the pattern? God doesn't just bless you for you. He blesses you so others can live through your obedience. Like Joseph, you've survived betrayal, seasons of being forgotten, and moments where the silence from heaven was deafening. But chosen one, it was never a punishment. It was preparation. You were being built in secret so you could be trusted in public. Now, you're about to walk in rooms that once felt like fantasy. Your voice will carry weight. Your presence will shift atmospheres. Your success will not be for show. It will be for service. That's why lingering fears must be released now. Any thought that whispers, "You're not worthy," or "You'll lose yourself," is not from God. His word says you are fearfully and wonderfully made. His Spirit does not bring confusion or fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. Do you really think he brought you this far just to abandon you at the gate? No, he's not only opening the door, he's walking through it with you. I've seen it in others too. There was a woman I met who had once been homeless, abused, and deeply broken. But through grit and divine grace, she launched a non-profit that now shelters hundreds of women and children. When asked what changed her life, she didn't say money. She said, "God made me see I was worthy of more, and I finally believed him." That belief, rooted in divine identity, is what you're being called into right now. And as this success begins to unfold, ask yourself deeper questions, not out of fear, but out of vision. What kind of legacy will I leave behind? Whose chains will break because I said yes to this calling? How can I use my voice, my resources, and my story to uplift others who are still in the valley? Because success is not simply about numbers in your account or applause from others. Real success is when your purpose overflows into the lives of others. It's when your testimony becomes someone else's survival guide. When your table gets so full that you start building longer tables, not higher fences. When what was once your pain becomes someone else's rescue. Chosen one, this is why your name has been called. You were never meant to rise alone. You're not stepping into wealth for ego, but for impact. You've been chosen because your heart beats for more than just your own comfort. Because your soul aches for healing, yours and others. Because when the spotlight finds you, you'll still be kneeling. Let go of every whisper of unworthiness. Release every shadow of doubt. The millions that are coming to you are not an accident. They are part of a divine strategy, a holy assignment wrapped in favor. And they are coming to someone who has been proven, not just by effort, but by endurance. So stand tall now. Stand knowing that this is not just a new season. This is your divine arrival. Not because you forced it, but because you were faithful. Not because you manipulated it, but because you matured into it. This is your moment, and it's time to answer the call, not with trembling, but with triumph. Your destiny isn't waiting anymore. It's here. For you, chosen one, wealth is not just about luxury or financial ease. It is a divine instrument designed to elevate your spirit, your mission, and your reach. The abundance coming your way carries sacred weight. These millions are not arriving to inflate your ego or distract you with material excess. They are being delivered to your hands because you've been chosen to multiply light, not just money. Have you ever considered that your breakthrough is not only for your comfort, but for your calling? True wealth in the hands of a chosen one becomes holy. It becomes a conduit through which the will of heaven is brought to earth. You weren't called to simply survive. You were appointed to build, to restore, to influence. The overflow that's approaching isn't random. It's linked directly to your spiritual evolution. As your purpose expands, so must your capacity, and that capacity now includes financial power. But in your case, it's not just currency, it's clarity, it's access. It's a divine tool to unlock the next level of your destiny. When you begin to see money as a spiritual resource rather than a worldly pursuit, something inside you shifts. Money stops being a source of stress, fear, or guilt. Instead, it becomes a reflection of your alignment. It's the natural outflow of a life lived in purpose. Just as Solomon was granted both wisdom and wealth, not because he asked for riches, but because he asked for discernment, so too are you being trusted with abundance, not because you demanded it, but because you were faithful with what little you had. Can you feel the responsibility rising in your spirit? This is your moment to reframe wealth, not as something you chase, but something that now flows to you as a result of who you've become. You've passed tests in the dark. You've given when you barely had enough. You've prayed for others while silently bleeding yourself. That's why God can trust you. You won't worship the money, you'll wield it. You won't hoard it, you'll heal with it. You won't flaunt it, you'll fund movements with it. Ask yourself, what will you build in this new season? What kinds of doors will you open, not just for yourself, but for those who've been locked out for generations? Will you launch shelters, sponsor education, create sanctuaries for the brokenhearted? Your wealth is not just seed, it is soil, and within it, nations can be reborn. One of the most powerful gifts that wealth brings to the chosen is the freedom to think clearly and live deeply. The constant noise of survival, how will I pay for this? What if it all runs out, fades when provision becomes consistent? And when that noise quiets, your spirit can finally speak. Imagine what will happen when your days are no longer consumed by financial burdens. How much more intimate will your mornings become when they begin in stillness, not stress? What kind of revelation will you receive when your soul is no longer suffocated by debt or fear? This is why financial freedom is not simply a worldly luxury. It is a spiritual accelerator. It allows you to focus not on getting by, but on going deeper, deeper into your prayer life, deeper into your calling, deeper into your role as a vessel of divine truth. As the book of Proverbs declares, the blessing of the Lord brings wealth, and he adds no sorrow with it. The blessing that's coming is not heavy, it's holy, and it's designed to lighten your load so you can carry others. In this new chapter, you'll find that wealth is not the end, it's the beginning. It opens up paths that once seemed unreachable. It gives you options, options to rest, options to serve, options to create what the world needs but hasn't seen yet. You've always had the heart, but now you'll have the means. And perhaps the greatest power of all is what you'll do with that freedom, because you're not receiving this just for yourself. You've been assigned to uplift the weary, to fund healing, to amplify voices that were never heard. Whether through building homes, rescuing the trafficked, mentoring the lost, or simply being someone's answered prayer, your wealth will become a spiritual offering, the kind that echoes through eternity. The words of Jesus still ring with truth. To whom much is given, much will be required. But this is not a burden, it's an honor. You are being called to embody the abundance of the kingdom, to walk in overflow, not as a status symbol, but as a signpost to others that God is real, and that obedience brings fruit. This is your anointed season to rise, not just spiritually, but practically, not just emotionally, but financially. And as you rise, you will lift others. As you receive, you will release. As you build, you will bless. So, chosen one, are you ready to let your wealth become a ministry? Are you ready to step into the kind of life where your prosperity is an extension of your purpose? Because heaven has already said yes. Another sacred dimension of wealth on your spiritual journey, chosen one, is the mastery of self. Not the mastery that dominates others, but the mastery that governs your inner world, your thoughts, your impulses, your desires. Because handling millions is no casual task. It's a weighty assignment that demands a level of discipline and focus only a mature spirit can carry. Why would God pour great riches into unprepared hands? He wouldn't. That's why your journey up to now has involved refining, not just of your character, but of your spiritual strength. This is not just financial training, it is spiritual formation. With great wealth comes a subtle test. Can you remain humble when you hold more than most? Can you stay anchored when opportunity floods your door? Can you still hear God's voice when your own is finally being heard? These aren't hypothetical questions. They are spiritual checkpoints that determine the longevity of your abundance. That's why the Bible says in Proverbs 21, "The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down." It's a vivid picture, isn't it? The wise don't squander. They steward. They prepare. They think generationally. Are you willing to become that kind of steward? Think of Daniel, elevated to the highest ranks of Babylon. Wealth, status, and influence surrounded him, but he didn't lose his values. He refused to defile himself, even with the king's food, staying true to his God in a foreign land. And God honored his discipline with promotion and protection. That's the level of mastery you're being called into. Not to be moved by external wealth, but to rule over it with internal peace. Because true kings and queens don't chase crowns, they carry character. Wealth doesn't just challenge your integrity, it elevates your influence. As your resources grow, so does your reach. You're no longer just walking in rooms, you're shaping them. You're no longer whispering your truth, you're amplifying it to multitudes. What will you do when your voice starts echoing beyond your immediate circle? What will you say when people begin to listen, not just because of what you've done, but because of who you've become? I've watched this unfold in real life. A former teacher I knew, who once struggled to pay rent, built an education nonprofit after a financial breakthrough. With her new platform, she transformed entire school districts, reforming outdated systems, mentoring young leaders, and giving scholarships to students with no other lifeline. Her voice became a ripple of reform, and it all started with one breakthrough, one moment of obedience. That's what wealth can do in the hands of the righteous. It becomes a revolution. But wealth is not only a tool, it is also a mirror. It reflects your beliefs, your fears, your relationship with power. And this is where the deepest work begins, because abundance will surface every remaining shadow within you. Do you still believe you're not worthy? That if you have too much, someone else will suffer? That success will make you unspiritual? These thoughts must be addressed, not with shame, but with truth. Because you can't fully receive what you secretly fear. And you can't lead boldly if your inner world is still ruled by unhealed wounds. In this way, wealth becomes a spiritual purifier. It doesn't just bless you, it exposes you. Not to punish you, but to elevate you. To reveal the final layers of doubt that have clung to your calling. Are you willing to look in that mirror and confront what you find? Can you stay aligned with your mission when the world tries to lure you away with applause and distractions? Remember Jesus in the wilderness. Before he ever preached or performed miracles, he was tested, offered all the kingdoms of the world if he would just bow to the wrong voice. But he didn't. He chose mission over temptation, calling over compromise. And because he passed that test, he was released into his full authority. What if your next chapter is your wilderness moment, and your response will determine the weight of your influence? So as you step into this era of overflow, chosen one, recognize that these millions are not here for personal satisfaction alone. They are instruments, divine tools that will help you unlock new dimensions of your purpose. With them, you will rise, not just as a wealthy individual, but as a wise one, not just as a voice of hope, but as a force of impact. And yes, the road ahead will require you to dig deeper into wisdom, to walk more closely with humility, and to cultivate unwavering faith. But you are ready. You've been tested in lack. Now you will be trusted with plenty. You've carried burdens without bitterness. Now you will carry blessings without arrogance. Embrace this wealth not as an endpoint, but as a sacred continuation of your spiritual path. Let it push you to greater intimacy with God, greater impact in your community, and greater alignment with your divine identity. You are not becoming someone new. You are becoming more of who you already are. And now, as you stand at this threshold, ask yourself not just what you can get, but what you can give. What will you build with this abundance? Who will you bless? What kind of legacy will your wealth leave behind? Because this next chapter is not about accumulation, it's about activation. Chosen one, you've come too far to stop now. This final line you're standing before, it's not just symbolic, it's spiritual. It represents the threshold between everything you've endured and everything you've been promised. And crossing it isn't just about stepping into wealth. It's about stepping into who you've become through the fire. You're not the same person you were when this journey began. The trials have refined you. The silence has strengthened you. The waiting has deepened your faith. And now, everything that once felt delayed is aligning. Heaven's timing is precise, and your moment is now. In today's world, we're often told that wealth is only for the few, that abundance is about status or fame. But as someone chosen by God, you carry a different kind of wealth, purpose-driven wealth. You're not chasing success for vanity. You're receiving it to transform lives, to build the kingdom, to break generational chains, and to prove that obedience leads to overflow. I believe we're living in a time where God is raising up a new kind of leader, not loud, not flashy, but deeply rooted in truth. And you're one of them. Your rise will not look like the world's, but it will be undeniable. Quiet power, righteous influence, unshakable vision. So take a deep breath, chosen one. Whatever fear is trying to whisper, release it. Whatever guilt has tried to linger, let it go. You are stepping into the million realm, not just to be blessed, but to become the blessing. If this message spoke to your spirit today, comment 777 below as a sign of your agreement and alignment with what God is doing in your life. I want to thank each of you who've supported this channel through your super thanks and kind messages. It means more than you know. Even if you've never given, just your presence here is a gift. You are seen. You are valued. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone else who's on the edge of their breakthrough. You never know who needs this word today. May your hands be ready to receive. May your heart remain pure in the overflow. And may your next chapter be proof that faithfulness is never wasted. Your million realm awaits.